Hello, my name is Nerdbrain, or Eleison, depending on what game I'm playing, and I play Symmetra. A little too much. Anyone who's played Overwatch for a while is probably familiar with the content creator CarQ. He makes patch note update videos like the day they come out. Sometimes they're filled with typos and we can clown on him, but for the most part he provides all the info we need in a very clean, digestible manner. And he gets his videos out as quickly as possible. Unlike me. Also, when I was like 17, I harassed him with a Symmetra animation glitch on his stream.
I really think you forgot about this crucial tip in your Symmetra video. Just watch here. Let me show you this technique that I think you really should have mentioned. It's a really useful tip.
Okay.
You walk into this room, you press H, and you swap characters.
The fuck did you just do?
That's a good one, but this one, I think this is a really crucial tip.
Holy fuck, you're charging a Kamehameha wave. You need to say it.
Yeah, I really think...
Anyways, back in the Overwatch 1 days, he had this really cool series where he'd have a specialist for each hero come on the channel and share one tip for their main into every enemy hero matchup. He eventually kind of stopped doing this series, and I mean, I don't blame him. Doing the exact same thing for like 40 heroes and keeping them up to date would probably burn anyone out really fast. But the format worked and was popular for a reason. Short, quippy, and easy to apply tips. So, at the request of many, I'm going to be doing a little bit of CarQ plagiarism today, which, let's be honest, is like half of my videos anyway, and we'll be giving you one Symmetra tip for every hero. But to spice it up a little bit, I'm going to give a tip for every enemy hero matchup, but also one tip for playing with each hero on your team. Against D.Va, take advantage of her inability to block your beam with her defense matrix. Focus her down with your beam and prioritize demeching her as your main responsibility, and she literally cannot play the game. Remember to beam her allies instead of using your orbs when dueling near her so that she can't protect them from your damage. With an allied D.Va, you can combo her self-destruct with your teleporter. By placing the teleporter on top of a detonating mech, the nuke will be sent through the teleporter once the portal becomes active. Timing this correctly will cause the explosion to occur immediately after being sent through the teleporter, giving the enemy team zero time to react. This can be especially strong against enemy tanks with barriers like Reinhardt or Sigma, since normally they have a pretty easy time reacting to D.Va's ultimate. Against Doomfist, I like to take the Sentry Capacity perk for an extra turret and leave my sentries in areas he wants to dive. This will lead to predictable free chip damage, and the slow can catch him off guard and disable him from escaping. Alright, so a couple of characters are typically kind of just off doing their own thing most of the time, and Doomfist is one of them. Because of this, there isn't really too much you can do as Symmetra to directly synergize with him. However, on occasion, the teleporter can be used to enable specific rollouts for him by allowing him to begin his sequence from a deeper or more vertical location, allowing his cooldowns to still be available from that location, whereas if he was alone, he'd need to spend them when first engaging. Against Hazard, keep in mind that you and your teammates can escape his ultimate with your teleporter. Even if you think you might be able to make it out without your teleporter, begin placing it as soon as you see or hear his ultimate go out. This way, if you do get hit, the cast time will already be completed and you can teleport out instantly. Make sure to let your teammates know that if they don't have another way out, they can stack on you to escape with your teleporter if they get hit too. You can also block his ultimate by aiming directly upward and casting a hovering barrier. You can also block it with Photon Barrier if you're standing right next to it, since the projectiles fall at an angle. With a Hazard on your team, you can do some pretty silly stuff by placing your teleporter on top of his jagged wall. He can place the wall on top of various bits of terrain you'd normally be unable to place your teleporter on. There are some really cheeky flanks you can get off with this. Against Junker Queen, you need to make sure to keep your distance. At very close range, you will lose the duel pretty much every time. Play by your teleporter and blink away during the wind-up animation on Ravager to avoid a massive chunk of damage. The Perfect Alignment perk can also allow you to beam her down from a bit of a safer distance as well. With an allied Junker Queen, you can take advantage of the movement speed buff on her commanding shout to get deeper into enemy territory and chase down targets with your beam. Communicate with your Junker Queen and tell her to use her shout as soon as you reach max charge level on your beam. Once you're powered up, rush in and take the enemy down. Symmetra's teleporter is one of the few ways to escape Mauga's cage fight. When you think he has his ultimate, hold on to your TP and use it to get out. Make sure to remind your team that they too can use the teleporter to get to safety. With an allied Mauga, you can actually have him use the teleporter to leave his own ultimate without taking it down, allowing for some clever plays. Against Orisa, make sure to not waste your time trying to gun her down. She's slow and has a massive hitbox, so she's very easy to charge your beam off of, but with her massive health pool, 30% damage reduction from her armor, and another 45% reduction from Fortify, overhealth from Fortify, and incoming healing from her supports, it will take a long time to take her down. Charge your beam off of her, but then switch to squishy your targets afterwards, and you'll accomplish a lot more overall. Similar to D.Va, you can combo Orisa's Terra Surge with your teleporter. Have her begin charging her ultimate, wait a moment, and then have her use the teleporter and slam her javelin down as soon as she goes through for an unexpected surprise attack. Unlike the D.Va Bomb, this does require Orisa to use her interact key during her ultimate to go through the teleporter. Against Ramattra, you actually have a lot of tools to deal with his ultimate. Not only can you help your teammates escape its range with your teleporter, but keep in mind that while his Nemesis punches can hit through barriers, the AoE effect of Annihilation cannot. Cutting off his tethers with Photon Barrier and Hovering Barrier can help end his ultimate prematurely. Ramatra does not have any movement abilities of his own, so his ultimate can be ended early by enemies knocking him back or creating distance from him. A well-placed teleporter can give him a way to catch up to slippery foes and finish them off. Against Reinhardt, you can block his Earth Shatter with your ultimate and your Hovering Barrier. This is much easier to do with the perk barrier, but can be done with both. It just requires a bit more prediction with your ultimate. Pay attention to his gameplay and positioning. A Reinhardt moving forward more aggressively or not dropping his shield to throw a fire strike for a long period of time can be subtle gameplay indicators that he's trying to go for a shatter. Noticing these and making a good prediction will make blocking his ultimate much more reliable. With an allied Reinhardt, you can combo his Earth Shatter with your teleporter by sending him to the enemy backline when he's ready to slam. This is especially useful into enemy shield tanks like a Sigma or a Reinhardt mirror. This takes a lot of the mind games out of trying to go for a shatter. When dueling a Roadhog, you want to make sure to always save your Hovering Barrier cooldown or one charge of your turrets in order to block his hook. Blocking with barrier is much easier, but a turret can do the job just as well by aiming at his belly. With an ally Roadhog, it can be very strong to set up a trap of turrets in the area that he wants to hook someone from for free follow-up damage and to slow the enemy as they try to escape. Similar to Roadhog, make sure to save a turret charge or your Hovering Barrier to block Sigma's accretion. This is especially important against Sigma, as his rock is the only tool that he has to stop you. Symmetra literally counters every other part of his kit passively. If you can make sure to block the rock, you will win the 1v1 pretty much every time. His rock is also probably the easiest thing in the game to turret block, since it has a wind-up animation, a travel time, and it's just huge. The Hovering Barrier perk synergizes incredibly well with a Sigma on your team. Sigma will typically have his barrier out at the start of a fight, and then drop it after it takes a bit of damage, and then use Kinetic Grasp to block damage while it recharges its HP. Throw your barrier down the choke you're holding pretty much off cooldown, and tell your Sigma to drop his shield when he sees yours. He can then Kinetic Grasp after your barrier is gone, and then replace it with his barrier. Doing this will widen the window for his shield to regenerate, allowing you to hold the choke for much longer. This can also allow him to save his Kinetic Grasp in order to block something specific like Zarya's grab instead of having to use it for his self-sustain. Against Winston, you simply are not going to win the 1v1 if he's starting at full health. He has too much HP, does damage too quickly, and destroys your turrets too fast for you to possibly take him down alone. The best thing you can do against him is avoid letting the 1v1 ever happen in the first place. Have your teleporter at the ready and ideally already built in order to run away before he lands on you. This will cause you to avoid the burst damage from him landing and potentially create enough distance that he can't catch up with you. Teleporting back and forth between his jump cooldowns can often waste his time and force him to pick a new target. If fighting him is unavoidable, you have to play with your team so that you actually have a shot at killing him. If you're caught alone, beg for healing and try to stall by leeching HP off of his barrier with your primary fire to give healers time to get to you. You also pretty much always want to take Shield Battery over Hovering Barrier against Winston, since barriers do nothing to his primary fire damage. Similar to Doomfist, Winston is often just kind of off doing his own thing, but your teleporter can be very helpful for his dives into some matchups. Initiating with the teleporter instead of his leap can bait out movement cooldowns from enemies, allowing him to then use his leap to catch up to them, whereas if he initiated with leap, it would still be on cooldown after they retreat. 2 or more sentry turret beams on Wrecking Ball will slow him enough that he cannot enter his fireball mode, and thus cannot escape with his grappling hook. Well-placed sentries along his path can trap him and enable your team to follow up and finish him off. The Sentry Capacity perk can assist in doing this, but Perfect Alignment is also very strong against Wrecking Ball. The extra range allows you to get a few more ticks of damage in on him before he escapes your range, preventing him from escaping on low health as frequently as normal. Just like the other dive tanks, Ball is usually off doing his own thing, but there are some circumstances where you can assist him with his plans with your toolkit. By teleporting him to a high ground location, you can allow him to do his pile driver opener without setting grapple hook on cooldown first, which lets him use it immediately after in order to follow up or escape. Additionally, his pile driver launches enemies in a very predictable trajectory, making them easy targets for your right clicks. Symmetra's teleporter is one of the few abilities that can be used to escape Zarya's graviton surge, and your teammates can use it as well. You also don't have to be caught in the grav yourself in order to save your teammates. The teleporter is a two-way street. If you're not in the grav, you can build one in the center of it and your teammates can escape. Side note, your team will not use the teleporter unless you tell them to. If a character's toolkit doesn't have a way to get out of it normally, most players are just going to default to doing the most they can while stuck in the grav as soon as they get caught. Remind your team to spam interact as soon as they see the grav. Ideally let them know beforehand when you think Zarya almost has her ultimate. And if you can be in voice, light up those comms with TP out, TP out, TP out. Bob is basically just a glorified turret, and is one of the few ultimates that Photon Barrier can just directly counter. Try to save your ultimate in response for Bob as much as possible. Also, try not to have turrets near Bob if your Ana goes to sleep him. She'll get mad at you. With an Ashe on your team, keep in mind that the teleporter can reposition Bob. Unlike other ultimates, this isn't really a combo that you can plan out ahead of time. Instead, you have the ability to correct mistakes and adapt to various situations. If the enemy team backs up around a corner outside of Bob's LOS, you can TP him to a location that he can hit them from. And sometimes Ashe will just fuck up and whiff Bob, and your teleporter can turn a wasted ultimate into a one fight. Just like Doomfist's ultimate, which has the same kind of targeting, Symmetra has many tools to nullify Bastion's ultimate. You can TP out or block the AoE with Photon or Hovering Barrier. You can also block the center hit of the falling projectile with Hovering Barrier by aiming upwards. With the addition of his tactical grenade in Overwatch 2, Bastion has much more vertical mobility now with rocket jumping. But even then, this is still very limited by the cooldown, the self-damage, and the overall low height. A simple teleporter to the high ground can give your Bastion the perfect angle they need to mow down the enemy team. Against Cassidy, you have a lot of tools to evade his ultimate. You can obviously just block it with a hovering or photon barrier, but you can also teleport out of his LOS, and in a very desperate situation, you can even throw a turret at his face to block the bullet. You can also crouch behind a turret on a wall, fucking Looney Tunes type shit. Similar to Bastion, one of Cassidy's biggest limitations is that he lacks his own personal vertical mobility. Teleporting him to high ground is one of the simplest but most effective things you can do. This is especially strong with his ultimate, allowing him to get to new angles around barriers and LOS that the enemy team didn't expect. Fighting flying heroes can be a challenge for Symmetra due to her limited beam range, and against targets that are flying above you, you're unlikely to get any splash damage from indirect orb hits. For the most part, they really shouldn't even be your priority, since you'll probably be more effective targeting healers and tanks instead. But when you're forced to fight them, do everything in your power to mitigate your weaknesses against them as best you can. Try placing turrets higher up on walls along Echo's typical flight path. This will slow her down and make orb hits easier to land, and also just do some free chip damage. Even if they don't kill her, they can waste her time, preventing her from taking out her real target. The perfect alignment perk can also help you be able to reach her with your beam as she takes off or is landing. A full set of Echo Sticky Bombs deals up to 180 damage, which puts most heroes in range of being killed by one of your right-click orbs, even if a couple of the bombs miss. Pay attention to which targets she's throwing her bombs at mid-fight, and try to follow up with the right-click to help her secure the kill. Against Freya, remember that your teleporter is unaffected by the hindered status of her bola shot. Her ult detonates in 1.2 seconds, and TP takes 1 second to deploy. If you're real quick, you can build the TP and get out before it goes boom, but you can easily die to follow-up damage in this time, so it's a lot safer if you can predict it, have a TP already up, or start building it during its travel time. Bola shot deals up to a maximum of 200 damage if it's a direct hit. This puts pretty much every DPS and support hero in range of being killed by less than one full orb. Pay attention to who your Freya hits with her ultimate, and be sure to follow up with a right click to help her secure the kill. Against Genji, remember that his deflect is a matrix ability, meaning that your beam completely ignores it. Mid-team fight, he should be one of your highest priorities after you get max stage beam. Additionally, you can do some really funny stupid shit with teleporter against his Dragon Blade. If he tries to target you with it, teleport away. If he dashes at you, TP back. Rinse and repeat. Mileage may vary based on whatever else is happening in said fight, but when it works, it is absolutely hilarious. Also, be sure to remind your supports to use your teleporter to help them survive his ultimate. Genji is another one of those heroes that's normally off doing their own thing, and he has plenty of vertical mobility, so he's rarely in need of help from your teleporter. The biggest synergy I can really say for him is just to try to go for the same targets that he's going for, especially during his ultimate. If he's not damage boosted, his ultimate can actually be quite weak and take a lot of swings to secure a pick if there's even a little bit of chip healing from the enemy team. A single orb hit or a couple ticks from your beam or turrets can help him get that dash reset he needs to set off a chain reaction and really put in work. Against Hanzo, take advantage of the turret bomb technique as much as possible. Dropping a TP with a bunch of turrets followed up by a right-click orb can burst him down very quickly and take him off guard if he was in the zone sniping your teammates. Even if you don't secure the elimination, you'll force him to spend time dealing with you and give your team an opening to get past whatever area he was holding down. With an allied Hanzo, and any sniper hero really, you can use your turrets and teleporter to help them survive enemy dives. Turrets around their sniper perch will zap their attackers, and your teleporter can give them an escape that doesn't use their lunge cooldown, allowing them to use it immediately after and not be completely screwed if they're caught with it on cooldown. Symmetra's right-click orbs do exactly 100 damage each, meaning one direct hit will destroy Junkrat's Riptire instantly. When you hear his ultimate go out, you should make stopping it your #1 priority. In a pinch, you can also block the explosion with your hovering barrier, and your ultimate too, but good fucking luck with the timing on that. Also, you can TP yourself and your teammates out of his trap. Junkrat is actually able to use the teleporter while controlling his Riptire to transport it through. Granted, the Riptire can already wall climb and jump, so the applications of this are a little limited, but sometimes it's good to get creative. Using the TP to aim the Riptire can confuse the enemy team, who would normally be listening to the audio cues of the ultimate to get a general sense of where it is. Against Mei, remember that your barriers do not count as breaking LOS from Blizzard, but you can teleport out of it if you get the TP built before you're completely frozen. Additionally, remember that you can build up your beam charge on her ice wall. Similar to Hazard, keep in mind that you can build your teleporter on top of Mei's ice wall. So there used to be like a lot of spots where you could use the Mei wall on top of a Hazard wall in order to enhance the Jagged Wall TP flanks, making them a lot easier for your entire team to get across, but apparently at some point they removed this. In many of the spots close to the skybox, the game just doesn't let you place her wall on top of it anymore. Also now building her wall on top of his destroys it, which, okay, weird. But there are still some use cases for teleporting on top of the ice wall. The height gained and the large hitbox underneath the TP can allow you to use the teleporter in locations that would otherwise be just, like, really stupid, like directly on top of an objective or an area where the enemy team is actively playing. A turret bomb on top of her ice wall could have some potential as well. Against Pharah, ban her. Next. Okay, but for real though, all of the tips against flying heroes apply to her as well. Place your turrets higher up along her flight path and take advantage of the perfect alignment perk to be able to beam them more often. Pharah specifically is really obnoxious for Symmetra, because not only is she a flying hero, but she also has explosives and knockbacks. Meaning she can screw over team teleports, prevent you from escaping with your teleporter, and blow up turret bombs around corners without even needing to look at them. Genuinely, the best thing you can do against her is prevent the matchup from ever happening by convincing your team to just ban her outright. Also, when she ults, you can send your hovering barrier at her or build your ultimate through her, and she'll kill herself with a splash damage. Pharah is usually off doing her own thing, and there isn't too much you can do with her as Symmetra. An idea I had, though, would be using your barriers to protect her during her ultimate, since your shields can reach much higher vertically than any other barrier in the game. The hovering barrier perk is one of the strongest counters to Reaper's ultimate that isn't just, an outright stun to stop it. The barrier will block damage for a few moments before it breaks, but more importantly, stopping the damage also stops his lifesteal, giving your team a window to take him down. Reaper is also generally one of those characters that will kind of just be off doing their own thing most of the time, so the synergy tip here is sort of the same as characters like Ball or Doom. The teleporter can give him an entry point that allows him to keep his cooldowns for later. Sojourn is another character that's pretty susceptible to a turret bomb. She does have some tools to deal with it, both her disruptor shot and her power slide, but even if you don't kill her, just forcing those cooldowns is strong enough of a play to enable a follow-up. Another simple tip here. Sojourn has some vertical mobility, but it is quite limited, and using it causes her to spend her only escape tool. Simply teleporting her to a high ground location to get some off angles is all you need to do sometimes. Against Soldier 76, be sure to take the Hovering Barrier Major perk. It lets you block all of his incoming damage on a pretty short cooldown. Your ultimate is also very strong against his visor. If he ults from super far away, then the wall just completely ruins his life. Even if he ults pretty up close, you can still take advantage of shield dancing to block a good portion of his shots. For playing with him, it's the same as most other hit scan heroes. Just teleport this old man to the high ground or behind enemy lines and let him cook. So a lot of people sort of consider Sombra a soft counter to Symmetra because her EMP instantly destroys your photon barrier. But Symmetra actually has a huge advantage here if you play your cards right. Sombras know that their ult completely negates yours, and will often save it specifically for your wall. If you literally just don't use your ultimate, a lot of the time, neither will Sombra, and this is a win for you. EMP is one of the strongest ultimates in the entire game. Photon Barrier, well, it's alright. Worst case scenario, neither of you ever ult the entire game, and your team would much rather not have a Photon Barrier than not have an EMP. Additionally, when you think she's going to go for the EMP, you can back out to avoid getting hit by it and build the wall as soon as she sends it. Not only will this avoid having your wall be destroyed by her ultimate, but now your team has a barrier to protect them when they're at their most vulnerable. Generally, take the Hovering Barrier perk against her as well. This will give you a tool to use in place of your ultimate for smaller threats, while still saving your ultimate to fuck with her head. On certain maps, simply having a Sombra hack a health pack in a room or choke you plan to guard with your turrets can be a massive buff to your game plan. Simply communicate with your Sombra and ask her to hack health packs in your general play area. Against a fellow Symmetra, keep in mind that you kind of counter your own kit. Symmetra has shield health on herself and her teleporter, and also has 2 barrier abilities. This gives the mirror matchup lots of opportunity to charge up their beam and regen their HP. When you use your ultimate, keep in mind that you'll probably give the enemy sim max beam charge quite quickly. After you ult, make taking her out your highest priority so she can't turn your ultimate against you. Also, it's just satisfying to win the ego duel, and I just gave you justification to do so. Outside of generally just focusing her, you can also bait the damage from her turrets by building a teleporter in their range. This allows you to take them out without being hit, or just ignore them for a moment while you focus her and her team. Symmetra is very adept at taking down Torbjorn's turret. Your orbs have no fall-off damage, and you can take off angles around barriers and LOS points using your teleporter. Prioritize finding an angle to take it out quickly when your team is engaging. With an allied Torbjorn, you can teleport his turret just like your own. This is good for repositioning his turret mid-fight, helping him reach hidden high-up spots that he can't normally reach without a perk, and can be comboed with your turrets for the ultimate turret bomb. If you're damage boosted by any source in the game, a right-click orb direct hit into a melee will one-shot Tracer. Also, with the return of old Photon Barrier as Hovering Barrier, you can do some really funny shit and block her Pulse Bomb with a barrier and even push it into her face and kill her with her own bomb. Tracer simply does not need your help. She doesn't really care about vertical mobility or getting off angles, since she needs to be in pretty close range to do damage, and she's far too fast for you to keep up with even if you wanted to play with her. The best thing you can really do for her is to just call out and ping enemies that you've gotten low with your right clicks to let her know who to finish off. Venture can be a real pain to deal with as Symmetra because of their explosive damage combined with their knockbacks, just like Pharah. All that paired with their get out of jail free card with Burrow makes it really hard to win this duel. Avoid them at all costs and play with your team to avoid being caught by them alone. I also like to just ban them as much as possible so I don't have to deal with them. Also, your barriers can block their ultimate. Just like with Reinhardt, it can be very useful to teleport Venture behind enemy barriers, allowing them to more easily hit enemies with their ultimate. Just like with the other snipers, turret bombs are your best friend against Widow. Catch her off guard and finish her quickly with a right click while she's being slowed and chipped down by the turrets. Even if you don't kill her, just forcing her off her perch and making her grapple away can be enough. Keep in mind that you can also be crouching while you take the teleporter to avoid headshots. Also, just like the other snipers, try protecting your Widow's perch with your turrets to defend against dives. You can also have a teleporter nearby to give her an escape that keeps her grapple cooldown at the ready. Repeating myself a lot here, but yet again, turret bomb the absolute fuck out of Ana. She has no movement ability, making her pretty susceptible to it, and forcing her to use her cooldowns to deal with it can be very impactful. Sometimes if you get in her head enough, you don't even need to commit to the turret bomb to do it. You can just build a teleporter next to her and she'll waste her nade. A nano-boosted Symmetra can be very powerful. Not only do you just blast, but the damage reduction and move speed with the Speed Serum perk lets you circumvent Symmetra's biggest weaknesses. If you plan to play Nanometra, make sure you communicate with your Ana. Tell her to wait till you have max beam charge to nano you so that none of the duration is wasted. Ideally you do this over voice for optimal precision, but if that isn't an option for you, just type out to her ahead of time to wait a few moments into combat before she uses her nano. You can also tell her to keep an eye and ear out for the audio and visual indicators of your beam's charge level. Against BAP, you typically want to save your Photon Barrier for his Amplification Matrix. A crap ton of hit scan and projectile damage is going to come through it, and that is precisely what your barrier is good at blocking. Unfortunately, post-health pool buffs, Amp Matrix does not make your right clicks one-shot most heroes anymore. But chucking logs that deal 200 damage each is still very effective. Your beam normally has higher damage potential, but with window up, it's good to pivot to being a ranged DPS for a bit. Photon and Hovering Barrier are also very useful to let you stand in the window for longer without getting gunned down. Against Brig, try to beam her down from max range as much as possible to deny her self-healing from Inspire on melee hits. Prioritize breaking and applying pressure to her shield with your beam. If you can break it, you cut off her only mobility tool in Shield Bash, leaving her vulnerable and an easy kill. If she's low HP, you can kill her through her shield with the splash damage from your right clicks by shooting the ground beside her. The biggest thing you can do with a Brig is to just pay attention to what she's doing to take advantage of her support. If she's frontlining with your tank, then you should be too. If she's got rally up, go give her a hug so you can rush the enemy team with big passive healing and overhealth. Don't complain that you're not getting healed if you're actively refusing to play with her. Against Ilyari, you can block her Captive Sun from applying to your team by blocking the initial projectile with your Photon or Hovering Barrier. Even if you fail to block the initial hit, having a Photon Barrier up can prevent the follow-up damage to proc the explosions, so Photon Barrier is pretty strong in response to her ultimate. With an Ilyari on your team, keep in mind that you can teleport her healing pylon. This is incredibly niche, but this can be used in some interesting ways. You can send it with your turrets for some healing backup on a turret bomb follow-up. You can move it while she's dead to heal an ally in need, or move it away from enemies to prevent it from being destroyed. Just don't mess with it too much, she might get annoyed with you. Juno is generally a very easy target for Symmetra and should be your main priority. She has lots of shield health, meaning you have high uptime on your shield leech against her, and she has no self-healing abilities outside of her ultimate. She has some mobility, but even with her glide boost, she is very vulnerable to a turret bomb. Juno has one of the big 3 speed buffs with her Hyper Ring. This can pair very well with Symmetra. Simply use the speed boost once you have max stage beam and rush down the enemy team. Kiriko's Suzu doesn't just make her allies immune to damage, it makes them intangible, unable to be hit at all. This means that if she Suzu's a target that you're currently beaming, your beam will not gain or maintain charge level. Don't waste ammo on an intangible target. When Kiriko uses Suzu, pause your beam and charge up an orb. Release the orb as soon as the effect ends and then resume beaming. With an allied Kiriko, you can take advantage of her ultimate speed boost to rush down the enemy team just like other speed buffs, but this one will also increase your damage output through the attack speed buff. She can also do a more frequent on-demand speed buff with her Suzu when paired with the Foxtrot perk. So you can kind of just farm Lifeweaver. His pedal platform and ultimate are complete beam fodder and will give you full beam charge very quickly. And his dash only moves him about 5 meters, so unless you're already at max beam range, he'll probably still be in range of you after he dashes away. He's just a very easy target for you, so be sure to focus him. Just keep in mind 2 weird quirks about him. His ultimate's healing is not blocked by barriers, unlike other similar heals. Additionally, when a target is being protected by life grip, they can still be hit, the damage is just prevented, meaning you can still charge your beam off of an enemy being gripped. Similar to Hazard and May, there are some shenanigans you can pull off by placing the teleporter while standing on Lifeweaver's pedal platform to circumvent large sections of map geometry. Lucio's crossfade healing, speed boost, and sound barrier applications can all be blocked by your photon and hovering barriers. This is particularly useful when he goes for an ult while caught in Azaria's graviton surge. Ulting through the grav can prevent his ult from applying to his allies. Lucio is the mother of all speed boosts, and thus he works very well with Symmetra. Have him amp it up as soon as you get your beam charged and rush down the enemy team. This applies to the other 2 big speed buffs, Hyper Ring and Commanding Shout as well, but I just want to mention this here. At the start of a round on symmetrical maps, make sure to let your team know to take the teleporter first, and then use speed buffs and movement abilities after taking the TP in order to get to the point as quickly as possible. Symmetra can be very strong at preventing Mercy from completing her reses by marking the area around her fallen ally with turrets and a teleporter, allowing you and your team to get back to her spot and stop her. Sometimes just the presence of a teleporter nearby the res spot can be enough of a deterrence to prevent her from even going for it. One of Mercy's biggest strengths is that her healing, while not the highest in the game, has very few limitations attached to it. It is not blocked by enemy barriers or hitboxes, cannot miss due to player error, and can even briefly continue to heal after breaking LOS. Mercy's healing in particular is capable of supporting an aggressive Symmetra more than any other healer since it cannot be prevented nearly as easily. Because of this, Symmetra is one of the best pocket targets for Mercy. As dumb as it is, the best synergy tip with Mercy is to just get pocketed. And listen, I'm not just saying that because I play Symmetra and I want a Mercy pocket. The stuff that her beam on you enables you to get away with is actually bonkers, and a 234 DPS beam while being damage boosted can do some serious shit. Also, I play Mercy too, and I get really happy when I get to pocket a sim. Okay. If you want an actual tip, you can also assist with reses with the teleporter. The teleporter can allow her to escape post-res without needing a target to stay behind for her to Guardian Angel to. This can also allow the resed ally to escape a situation that would otherwise be just a really bad res that the Mercy shouldn't have done, where they just die right after. Moira is actually really hard to duel as Symmetra. You have to land 2 orbs and have some chip damage in order to take her down. But she self-heals while damaging, so it's basically going to have to be 3 consecutive orbs every single time. If she uses an orb to heal herself, then this is going to take even longer. Generally, her other support will almost always be a better target. When you're forced to duel her, try throwing some turrets around her. It takes almost a good half second for her to beam each of them down. The turrets will provide the chip damage required to possibly 2-orb her, and the slow will make landing the right clicks a bit easier as well. Her taking the time to target each turret will also temporarily cut her self-healing. Coalescence healing does require LOS, but similar to Mercy, its healing is uninhibited by barriers and hitboxes. This paired with its long range allows you to play very aggressively during her ultimate as long as you're going for the same target as she is. Wuyong's Tidal Blast AoE hit is blocked by barriers. Well-timed shield dancing with your ultimate or a hovering barrier right before it goes off can save your life. Tidal Blast can be comboed with the teleporter. Simply have the target of his ultimate take a TP a moment before it detonates to take a crowd of enemies off guard. Just like Lucio, the healing from Transcendence is blocked by your barriers. You can send your ultimate through a grav as a makeshift anti-nade, or just have it up through the objective to make him choose between which allies to heal if they're separated by the barrier. The teleporter can be a very strong tool for giving Zenyatta off angles to apply his Discord debuff to enemies protected by barriers or LOS, enabling your team to dive the ideal target at the very start of the fight. No. Look, man, she's not even out yet, okay? Anything I say is just gonna be changed in the next, 2 weeks. I'll make, a fucking short for her next season, okay? I promise. In the meanwhile, all I can say is, by God, I am terrified for this hero to come out. Her kit is so stacked, and she's a melee hero whose attacks are very easy to land. This could very easily be the worst thing since launch Brig. This segment will be a great time capsule. That statement could age like fine wine or like milk. Can't wait to see. And that's all I've got. Was this video original? No. But hey, at least I tried to make it unique. Dude, this video literally would have been half the length it was if I was just lazy and straight up copied CarQ completely. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the tips. Good luck in your games and use them well. And like, subscribe and stuff. Or don't, I'm not your mom, do what you want.